honestly, like on my journey, I was blue pill first. You know what I mean? Like I grew up just, idealizing the idea of being in love with a woman, being, enmeshed. You know what I mean? Of being attached in that way. And a lot of that stuff can come from childhood trauma and different things like that you go through that make you think that a relationship can be the end all be all of your existence. And you know what? For some people, it can play a very, very significant part in their life. You know what I mean? It's not something that is overlooked. I'm not somebody who says, oh no, falling in love is always bad and it doesn't exist, and a relationship like that, those things never happen anymore. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. It's just a matter of when you go out with those intentions of finding that, or you go out with not those intentions but that expectation, then you put unrealistic expectations on people, right? And also there are some dudes that I to a certain extent, and it's not always that way, but I think that when it comes to the game, there are some dudes that kind of need to be paid for guys, right? For the purpose of their own self-esteem, for the purpose of their own self-confidence when it comes to dealing with women and things like that. I'm just keeping it a buck. Like, I know when I was younger, a lot of things that guys say that when they're older on, and they're like, yeah, you don't need to be out here dealing with all these women, and it's a waste of time and all this other stuff. Like, I used to say that same stuff when I was young, and when I was younger, and I didn't have that much experience, and, I was just about love and being in relationships and all this other stuff. But what I learned along the way is there are negatives that are worth someone making a logical decision to go against the blue pill way of thinking, right? There are logical reasons to not do that. And because there are logical reasons not to do that, there are pluses on the other side too. But don't overlook those logical reasons, right? When I look at those type of situations, I remember being younger, and sometimes you'll be, talking or dealing with girls and not finding success with them, right? And then you wonder why. The reasons that you find are the reasons women tell you often aren't the reasons why. Or let's say you may be in a relationship. One thing that pushes guys towards, going the red pill way as well is sometimes you could be in a relationship itself and then not regularly have your sexual needs met. Or you could be in a relationship itself and not feel like you're being respected by a woman. Or you could feel worse than alone, but now it's worse than alone because now you don't have the option of dealing with somebody else either because you're tied down. And then society tells you you're wrong for leaving for a plethora of reasons because it vilifies men. So it's like, I think a lot of the dues that need to be paid when it comes to the game, when it comes to dating and relationships, is a man needs to come to a place where he recognizes his sexual value. A man needs to come to that place. He needs to come to a place where he recognizes his sexual value to women and doesn't try to trade his non-sexual access for sexual access, right? Now, a lot of men, I'll say this right here, when it comes to the system, which is the LMS, pretty much black pill, not necessarily black pill, but the red pill system of, okay, you get your looks, your money, your status up, and then you'll have more options with women, which is true. A lot of this shit is about energy too. And I'll say this right here. It's like you can have access to women sexually and have access to a woman's mind and her emotions and all those different things without ever being in a situation where you're paying a single dollar for it. Actually, women can pay you. And some people agree with that, some people don't agree with it. But the truth is this. It's like there are options. It's not one thing that's right, one thing that's wrong. This is masculine, this is not masculine. Or this is light, this is not, this is good, this is bad. It's just more of what fits your lifestyle, and really think about it, because there are certain things that are going to come with certain things that you just have to be willing to accept when you make certain choices. I've been in those situations myself. Like, when I talk about the dues that need to be paid, I'm talking about as a man, if you do not understand your sexual value with women and you haven't developed your sexual power, then you will be a sitting duck to be manipulated by the prospect. Your ego will manipulate you into thinking that a woman is more compatible to you than she really is just because she's attractive, right? Or just because she gives you sex, or even worse, just gives you the idea that you might get some, and then you fill your head up with these fantasy bonds, right? Because you're not used to getting that type of access. I think that, probably best case scenario is somewhat a blue pill society. Not completely. My idea of the Blerd Pill more so works like this, right? The Blerd Pill more so works like this. It's a purple pill ideology, but it's based off the premise of society is somewhat built on the blue pill. But I would say that the traditions of what the blue pill represent, to a certain extent, like the model of it, is something that I believe probably happened naturally. You know what I mean? I think it happened naturally, and then in the process of that happening naturally, someone saw that and said, this is the best way that a society can run. So what we're going to do about that is we're going to take these ideas, we're going to take these different aspects of this, and when we take this, we're going to go ahead and synthesize this, and we're going to package it up, and we're going to sell it to people, right? And we're going to say, this is what you have to do to be an active member in society. This is what you have to do to be a good member in society, right? So like, let's say monogamy is something that can happen naturally. Is it natural in and of itself? Yes and no, but probably mostly no, right? But why? You need to find someone you're actually sexually and non-sexually compatible with. And that goes for both quality and quantity. All right? You know, it goes for both quality and quantity. And you need to find somebody who you can actually get along with, and not just because they're attractive. And if you find somebody who can meet those needs for you, and you can meet those needs for them, then you're in a good position. But it doesn't work that way for everybody all the time. A lot of people aren't going to find that. And because of a lot of people aren't going to find that, you know, this is where the blerd pill comes in. It's the choice is this. If you don't find that right off the bat, are you going to keep trying to force yourself into monogamous relationships and situations in order to have society think that you're a good person? Or are you going to just keep enjoying yourself and going through that process and just trying to set yourself up in a way where you might see some good outcomes? You know, set yourself up in a way where you may get the outcome that you desire. Make yourself attractive for it. So it's like, say, okay, you don't see a woman right now who you're dealing with who is giving you the good, you know, giving you enough of what you would need to be satisfied in a relationship. So you're going to get your rotation together. You know, you might have 1, 2, 3 different women who you're dealing with, who you're seeing, right? And when you're going through that process of having 1, 2, 3 different women that you're seeing and dealing with, it's like what you can do is like when you're going through that process, you can just tell them, right? Be honest with them, be upfront about what you're looking for. You're looking for a certain combination of the non-sexual and sexual chemistry, right? And you're trying to test that out. You're trying to see if it's there. You communicate some, you get that shit together. You give a woman the opportunity, right? So when I talk about this, it's using the red pill as your introduction into a situation, but it's your introduction into a situation in a way where you're not going to allow a woman to trade her sexual access for your non-sexual access. You're going to make sure that your situation is sex for sex, right? Make sure that that is something that is on an even playing field, and that your non-sexual time for your non-sexual time is an even trade. That's just all you're doing. That's all you're doing, right? Now, at first, there may be women who you don't have enough non-sexual compatibility with, like they may not be submissive enough for you, or they may not show high enough interest, but they're attractive, so you might put up with it a little bit, right? Let's be realistic. When you first start working on your game, you know, that's probably what's going to happen most of the time. And then let's say you have some more women who may not be fully to the level of attractiveness that you would want, and because of that, you know, you're not as quick to want to take the situation serious, but they're submissive with you, they're nasty, they're getting into the stuff you want to get into. I think that as a man, the goal with your rotation should be, okay, cool, you know, if they're not open enough to you to have those conversations, then you just leave them in whatever spot they're in. But if they're listening, if they're receptive to you, then you can work on, you know, improving the situation some. And I'm just talking about things that are general. You know what I mean? Sometimes women don't have a real man in their life who's going to tell them the truth about ways that they fall short. And as a man, we have ways that we fall short too that we need to work on as well. I don't think that you should necessarily take those cues from women, you know what I mean? But at the same time, we still have things that we need to work on as well. You know what I mean? So it's like when you're going through that process, let's say she's a little big, you know what I mean? Let's say she's a little too big for you, and it's a shape thing or whatever it is, right? Now, there may be some men out there who are cool, that's perfect for them, right? And in that situation, that's not the case. What I'm talking about is you recognize that for each woman's body type, there's going to be a certain level or a certain peak for that specific body type, right? And the better that is, the more options that she has is. And sometimes you are one of the options that is excluded from her. One of the options that is excluded for something long term because of that situation. You know, if you're spending time with that woman, you might could show her some of your diet plan or something like that, or talk to her about the idea of count calories, or you may see if she's someone who's willing to exercise. Because the truth is this: if you're with a woman, you're married to a woman, there's a good chance that she's going to gain weight, she's going to get bigger. Why? So because of that, you need to probably understand how to encourage a woman to get in better shape. It's something to really think about. You know, let's say a woman doesn't understand submissiveness. She's receptive enough to you to listen, but she just was taught a bunch of goofy shit and a bunch of silly stuff by women that she knows. If she's willing to listen and she's receptive, then you can put her on game about femininity. You can put her on game about interactions and dynamics between men and women and sociosexual dynamics in a way that can help her. Because you want to leave somebody better than you found them. You know, if you're a good person, you want to leave somebody that better than you found them, or at least the same. And what guys got to be honest with ourselves about is when a woman is dealing with you sexually for an extended period of time, especially if she's the type of woman who's willing to cut off other guys to deal with you, even if you tell her not to, that even if she says that it's not a big deal, that's still taking away, that's counting down on the clock of how much time she has to find her potential husband. So at the very least, I think that men, our mindset should be that I can leave this woman better than I found her, right? If she's not open to that, then that's cool. If you just want to keep sleeping with her, that's on her. If she can't communicate, can't understand these things, that's her responsibility, that's her prerogative. But at least if the opportunity presents itself, make it there. You know what I mean? Because you never know. If a woman is just attractive and she's just lacking in certain understandings of femininity, if you expound on those and she goes through your process, then maybe you can make that a serious situation. If that woman is just a little bit out of shape, but she looks good, she smells good, I mean, she's pretty, she smells good, she keeps her hands, her toes done, you know, she keeps up with herself. It's just that she doesn't quite understand certain things about nutrition or exercise, then maybe invite her to exercise with you. Instead of taking her out on a bunch of dates, maybe you can take her to go exercise, to do some things where you're going to be burning some calories in the process. You know what I mean? This is what I'm talking about. Is actually bringing value and substance into a woman's life if she's open to it, and this is after she's already shown that she sexually values you. See, one thing as a man that we have to offer a woman is our guidance, our wisdom. You know, even if you don't have a lot of money, as a man, there's certain wisdom and guidance that comes along with being a man, with living our life through this logical worldview for most of our lives, that when you have that, there's certain things that you can share with a woman. If you have nothing to teach a woman, you have nothing to offer her, honestly. And if a woman wants you, even though you have nothing to teach her, then she may be a woman who is trying to control you. So you probably don't need to be in that situation anyways, unless you're cool just hitting it. Because some guys, they are fine with just getting their rocks off. I think that in this process of transitioning from, you know, what I call the Blerd Pill, is just, you know, a transitioning. It's like when you have that red pill mentality and you're trying to, or that red pill reality. You want to get up to a point where your outside circumstances, you know you have the options, you know you have the ability to attract women sexually, so that if you ever go back into the dating world seriously, that you know that you have that ability, so you don't question yourself as much. You don't worry so much about a woman's body count or her history. You don't worry so much about if a woman is satisfied, because you've been with enough women to be able to somewhat identify, to know that you know how to communicate and please a woman. That, you know, if you have that type of experience, if you don't please a woman, then you could say, okay, cool, I know how to communicate. If she can't communicate enough to get her satisfaction, that's her responsibility, that's her fault, that's on her. And another thing that can happen is by recognizing that that's the type of woman that it is, you can say, okay, cool, if she's not doing this from a genuine place of pleasure, then there's probably something that she's trying to get out of it. And by trying to get something out of it, then you'll probably realize that her just being in a sexual relationship with you is not a one-to-one transaction. See, one thing a lot of guys don't understand is that when a woman is sleeping you from a place of desiring validation, or sleeping with you from the place of desiring a relationship in the future, then the validation of progressing things on a status, social connection type of level is something that, as long as you keep having new levels that she can reach to, it's going to maintain a little bit of her interest in her consistency with making sure that she, you know, takes care of your sexual needs. Real shit. Listen, if you can get into a marriage with a woman who has that type of mindset, you can't really go past the validation of a marriage. So soon after the marriage, she may get a little boost of that when she desires kids again. But after she gets the marriage, after she gets the picket fence, see, this is what happens. You know, the sexual desire will die. Why? Partially maybe some of the hormones, but a lot of it is because she was having sex because she wanted the marriage and because she wanted the kids. She wanted the picture perfect, you know, validation for her ego. After that's gone, there's not really too much more validation that you can give her, so her sexual desire is gone for you. It may be reinvigorated with a new man, because that may be a new experience where she can get that from. If she thinks she can get that, she probably will. And if she doesn't think she will, she'll probably just settle in with you and, you know, and just settle down and just treat the relationship like your roommates. But if a woman has sexual desire for you up front, then it's not something that's just based on wanting kids or wanting a marriage. So after you commit to that woman, it's much more likely for that to be something that is consistent and maintained, right? Because that desire is something, and that attraction, that desire is something that is inherent to the situation, right? So this is a lot of things that I talk about when it comes to the Blerd Pill are most about just understanding social sexual dynamics. It's about knowing the reasons why we do the things that we do, and also just putting ourselves in a position where we can get the outcomes that we desire. So, you know, I do think that a monogamous marriage for some people is a great option. I also think that a non-monogamous marriage for some people is a great option. And for some people, no marriage at all is a great option. You know what I mean? And it's just about, you got to have enough experience to know what you want too. Sometimes people just decide what they want based off of the different social programming that they had religiously, or, you know, through their family or through traditions. And it's not actually about what's suitable to their personality and their lifestyle and the things that they want out of life. And when you have that type of mindset, you often find yourself in situations where you become disillusioned with your past and with your upbringing because you don't understand the ins and outs. Like a lot of the blue pill mentality, it comes with certain things that aren't spoken about up front, right? You know, a lot of it is, you know, based off of, to a certain extent, it can encourage a Madonna whore complex in both men and women. You understand what I'm saying? Like, there's a male version of it, but I'm just going to say Madonna whore complex for right now. Let's say a woman develops a Madonna whore complex where, because she trades her sexuality, you know, for commitment or for love or for straight up for resources, there's going to be delineation between the men who she just wants to sleep with and then the men who she wants to get validation or resources from, right? And often the men who she wants to sleep with are going to be of a higher level of attractiveness than the men who she's able to get for a relationship. So she's going to try to get those men into a relationship, and if she's unable to get those men into a relationship, then she's going to come back around and settle for the guys who want to give her validation and all these other things. But that settling often tends to lead to her being unsatisfied and having a certain level of resentment towards the man. And a man can have the same level of resentment towards a woman when he knows that that is the situation that she's been in. See, men settle for women who aren't submissive, and women settle for men who they don't want to submit to. It's a trust thing. You know what I mean? It's a value thing. And not value in the terms of money, or value in terms of, even always in the terms of attractiveness, but value in the terms of, how does that person make you feel, and do you value that, or do you value the part that that person plays in your life? You know, it's a real question. It's a real question. These are things that people go through. These are things that people experience. So when I'm talking about this Blerd Pill, I'm talking about, okay, cool, as a man, you know, where we usually fall short in the eyes of society, or where we usually fall short with women, is not understanding, you know, the power of our masculinity, not understanding that women often have the inability to be honest with us about what it is that they really want, and often what women say that they want online or publicly is not factual, or it's not realistic with what they really respond to. That's one aspect. Another aspect is that men need to understand female sexual nature and not get caught in the trap of trading their non-sexual access for sexual access, because it will create a constant struggle of you having to pull back in order to regain this woman's interest, in order for you to keep a consistent sexual situation. And that just turns into emotional manipulation, and that shit gets old. It really does. It really does. Now, I'll say this: if you decide you want to go the blue pill route, then you need to understand that, because if you do not understand that process of maintaining masculine frame, and then you're trying to deal with a woman who doesn't fully isn't fully sexually attracted to you, then this is something to understand. a woman being submissive with you, or a woman desiring you sexually, is usually going to be on a combination of a few different bases. It's going to be her pure attraction and sexual desire for you. It's going to be a combination of your masculine energy, your masculine feminine dynamic, and it's going to be a combination of your ability to socially validate her, right? So let's say you're a man who is in a blue pill mentality, in a monogamous relationship, and your mentality is blue pill, which means you trade your non-sexual access for sexual access, which is basically you're trying to trade love for sex, or love for love, and assuming that sex is part of love. When you have this mindset, often what men try to do is they try to use their money, they try to use their status, they try to use their resources and social validation to get a woman who is more attractive than them, right? And by doing this, by using that game, what you have to understand is when you use the game to improve a woman's interest, to increase a woman's interest, that when you show her vulnerability, when you show her compromise, when you show her communication, that lowers in her mind the view of your masculinity, right? Now, if you have a high enough level of a sexual attractiveness with this woman, then when the view of your masculinity lowers a little bit, you're still within her sexual wheelhouse. So now you go from merely being sexually attractive to her, to being husband, boyfriend, serious boyfriend, long-term material man who she can love and submit to. But if you're a man who's just right on the border of her sexual attractiveness, you're only like a 6 or a 7 in her mind, and let's say her wheelhouse is, it's pushing it to have sex with a 7 for her, or a 6, maybe, right? She'll do it, but she won't be excited about it. When you stop using game so that you can maintain her, so that you can have a deeper connection with this woman, when you drop like 1 or 2 points in your masculinity, in her view, based off of her internalized definitions, in order to communicate with her like that, what's going to happen is you're going to leave her sexual wheelhouse, and then it's going to seem as if she's being dishonest with you. When she says, oh, I want a man like this Russell Wilson, all this type of stuff, right? When you go through that process. So it's like, that's why I emphasize having, make sure you have a high set level of sexual attraction with the woman, because when you get to the point where she's earned and she's proven that she's a woman you can communicate with and talk to and have that type of situation with, that when you get to that point, you're going to have enough sexual attraction in the bank so that when that masculinity takes away from it, when you communicate and show a little bit of your feminine energy and vulnerability in order to communicate with that woman, to level with her, that it's not going to drop you out of her wheelhouse, right? This is something that's very important to understand. This is something that, I didn't learn this from anyone else. This is something that just came from my own anecdotal evidence and my own experiences and my own research and my own study of the game. And when it comes to this red pill and this blue pill situation, this is why I believe sex is so important when it comes to what I'm talking about. A lot of it is a connection. A connection can go over a lot of things, but one thing to understand about a connection is sometimes for a woman, a connection is kind of like friendship, and friendship doesn't do anything to that woman's vagina. Right? A lot of women, you know what? I'm going to stop the video right there. I have more that I can get into. I'm going to save that last part for later. But I think that this is just an interesting topic that we can discuss. And I just want to talk about the Blerd Pill, which is my ideology, which is, it's a combination of pretty much, it's purple pill ideology, blue pill, red pill, blerd, right? But also blerd is in black nerd, because I want to talk about finding things that fit you in attracting outcomes that you desire. So I don't think guys need to stop being into the nerdy stuff that they're into to try to get girls. You can use that stuff to your favor, right? A lot of things that go on with women are a matter of things that they associate in their mind. If you can learn to train a woman's mind to associate blerds with sexual attractiveness, right? The same way that often thugs and rappers and different things are associated with sexual attractiveness. And if you portray that image, it triggers something in a woman's mind that creates sexual desire or interest and curiosity at times. As a man, and as a group, black nerds, I think we can get together and start really working on this. Get our game up. We're already, a lot of us are getting our money up, but we need to get our money up, get our games up, get up our ambition, get up our masculine frame, our masculine energy. But also, I think this is something that can really help the black community, right? Relationships in the community as a whole. But I think that when it comes to this day and age, when it comes to this society, a lot of things that we go through with relationships are really an offshoot of the blue pill beginning to fail in society because of feminism. But feminism it is a problem because, in my opinion, it's a problem because of what it did to the black community, and coming in, taking support and then leaving, and sowing discord between black men and black women on a basis that really wasn't how we related to each other. But at the same time, there are some positives. Some positives are this. You know, based on the Blue Pill Society, you know, throughout history, a lot of relationships weren't built on having sexual chemistry and compatibility, as well as having emotional and non-sexual compatibility, right? Though a lot of those things weren't really the emphasis. A lot of it was based off of business decisions, based off of getting families together, based off of what do you need in order to improve your living situation. Now, society may crumble soon, you know, who knows? But we live in a society currently where where you don't need to be highly physical in order to make money. Women can make their own money. And also, you know, most people are getting married later, so almost nobody's going to be a virgin by the time they get married, right? And there's internet porn, all these different things that expose the truth behind female sexual nature. And it's like a woman can't really hide from it herself anymore. And if she does, it's often going to lead to a lot of resentment, like Aisha Curry, like a lot of things that girls go through, right? They go through, a lot of women go through this stuff where they try to do the right thing for so long, right? And then they try so long to do the right thing, and they see all their friends having all this fun, and then eventually they want to they want to get on a carousel too. And just my perspective of it is this, you know, I think that a woman should maximize her level of attractiveness to the best of her abilities for her body type, know what type of man that she desires, and when she knows what type of man that she desires, just tweak little things in her life, little things in her presentation that will attract that type of man. Understand the ebbs and flows of conversations in order to attract the man in. Understand the ways that you can validate a man that will cause him to desire you in a way that will cause him to be attached to you. Understand ways to add value, right? And men, we need to learn these same things on the other side. You know, these are all things that I think are important. These are all things that I think are important. So when we're looking at this whole Blerd Pill ideology, and I'm talking about, you know, biology first all the time, and people probably think I'm just some sex addict, and it's like, it's cool. I'm not mad about that. But this is all for a reason. And I'm going to say this right here too. No. I'm going to say that for later as well.